Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here is the host of The Pleasure Zone, sex, relationship, and intimacy coach and holistic health practitioner, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, my sweet pleasure seekers. This very fine show, we will be talking about bringing back, figuring out how we can have more libido. Like sometimes the libido just goes out the window, and why does that happen? So we're going to be reclaiming desire. We're going to be setting goals for restoring libido. What a great time of year to do that. If you're listening live, you're listening the beginning of a year. Won't say which year because who knows, maybe in 10 years I'll be still doing this. It has been 10 years. And I have to tell you that I wouldn't have thought in my first year that I was going to even make it past my first 8 episodes, never mind be able to say I'm celebrating over 10 and a half years of going at this. This is pretty wild. So well over, I don't know, 500 episodes. It's been a hoot. It's still going. We're still going strong. And why not at this point also discuss how we can reclaim desire? Reclaiming desire for things is, in this case, we're going to be talking about it for sex, but even in life in general, sometimes you have to look at how can you reclaim your desire. For me, even on this show, and one of the things that does continue my desire to continue the show is when I get great emails from listeners. I love it. I get it, some emails probably not every day, but I get some pretty regular emails, which I love. And if I haven't responded to you, many apologies. Please feel free to write to me again, and I'm happy to to respond. So if I haven't, I apologize about that. Sometimes things gonna get lost in my trails of emails. So why are we reclaiming desire? What's the point of it? What's the purpose of that? Is desire even important in our lives, to our bodies, to any of that? And the answer is yes. And now the show's over. Just kidding. So how do we do that? We need to learn how to set some goals and targets. We need to figure out how to actually do this, right? So it's one thing to know your libido has gone out the window. It's another thing to know how to get back on track. And one of the main things is to figure out, what are actually the causes of the diminished desire. What's bringing that up? And what qualifies me to even talk about this? Well, one of the reasons why I qualify is that I am a holistic health practitioner. I've been working with people for over 20 years to improve their health. And what I found through a lot of discussions over the years was that a lot of people were both shy to talk about their libido. And then what I found was that there were a lot of people who didn't realize that their libido was connected to a lot of other conditions going on in their body or symptoms going on in their body, and the impact that it was having on their endocrine systems, on their reproductive systems, and how that was impacting them emotionally, and all these other things that were side effects of that one forbidden topic about libido. Why do we even talk about that? Why is it even important? It is. All of these things have an impact on our bodies and our overall health. And we've talked about that in many episodes. So feel free to go back and listen. Even in the last 4 or 5 episodes, you'll probably find that I have had many conversations about how our health is being affected by our sex drive and how we can improve our health to improve our sex drive. So yeah, go back and have a listen. So we are going to kind of rehash some of that though, with looking at what are some physical factors for what's causing diminished desire. So physical factors can be pretty, I mean, to some people, they may be pretty obvious. They might go, well, I've hit menopause or I've hit andropause, therefore I have no desire. And they leave it at that. And they assume that is just the way it's going to be. That's just normal, not supposed to have any desire, just letting it go, pretending like it never happened, doesn't matter. It does. So it absolutely does. If you're having diminished desire, even if you are going through menopause, that's usually a really good indicator that your hormones are in a massive flux. And sometimes you need to do different things to regulate them, whether that's getting them checked so you can see what is off. There are lots of things you can do that are very natural methods, because I can't tell you to go, like, I can't prescribe to you to go and get hormone therapy or anything like that. What I can tell you is that there are foods with things like phytoestrogens in them that you can take. And if you are interested in a menopause and menstruation the easy way kind of course, I do have a course available on my website. I think it's now active. If not, it should be anytime now. It's a course my mom and I created a couple of years ago. It's a 4-part course where we talked about all things menopause, that because my mom had like the best menopause of anybody I'd ever heard of. My mom lost weight, gained energy, she felt better, her hair improved, her sleep improved, and she didn't really have hot sweats. So we talked about all the things she did in preparation for her body, and all the things that she ate, and all the things that, and my mom is a holistic health practitioner as well. My mom's actually a doctor of natural medicine, and she has a doctorate in natural medicine. So we talked about all the things that she did in order to, not fall into the category of this is just what happens in menopause, and the same old story about how it's supposed to be painful, bad, and you lose your mind, and all the things that you hear about menopause, the drive-age age. Well, that also didn't happen for her. So yes, I have these conversations with my mother. so so the hormonal changes from menopause, sometimes people just take that as an assumption that that happens. There's nothing you can do about it. Whatever, I surrender. It's my hormones. My hormones are in control of me. In some ways, your hormones do have a lot of control over you. However, there are ways that you can manage them so that they don't rule the roost, but that you can navigate them in ways that are a lot easier for your body and your health and your mental health. So when we're looking at what you can do for menopause, I could do literally a 4-part series on it, because I have, and it was like an hour each one. And that, even at that, I could have done more. So in it, we did include different homeopathic remedies for different conditions. We included gemotherapies for different conditions. If you're not familiar with them, they are from the buds of plants, and then those buds of plants have a certain potency about them, and create medicines from them. So if you're watching on video, they are on the shelf behind me. And and there's lots of different gemotherapies for different things, and there are ones that can help to regulate hormones as well. Well, what they do is they assist your endocrine system so that your endocrine system will help regulate your hormones. So, and there are many, many hormones, not just the, testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen or estradiol. Like, we have far more than that. And sometimes you don't realize which ones are actually impacting your sex drive. So those are important, just kind of like how we tend to make a lot of stories up about the way that things are supposed to be during menopause. We can also look at those stories and go, what if that's not true? And what if I can change it? And what can I do to change it? And there are lots of things that can be done. So, and on top of those remedies, we also talked about movements to be able to calm your body down so that you have better posture, so that you decrease cortisol levels, so that your estrogen can be more regulated as well. So when your posture is off, your cortisol skyrockets. if you think about it, when you think about the position of a boxer, they tend to curl in, they put their head kind of forward, they're in fight position. So if you're doing that on a regular basis, say if your head is always kind of uh, pulled forward and it's off kilter, it's not in alignment, and your shoulders are curled in like you're ready to fight, then your body is going to think that it's in the fight position, and it's going to raise that cortisol to get you into fight mode. So posture has a massive impact on cortisol levels, as well as different foods will impact cortisol levels as well, because they can like get your, so for example, drinking a lot of coffee will ramp your body up to think that it's also on high alert, gets your adrenals jacked and your body is confused, then all these other things kick in. So hormonal changes aren't just from aging. There are environmental impacts that cause them. There are food, there are things that we're doing to our bodies and that are being naturally occurring due to different things like posture. So that's, our own bodies, but then externally we have things that are going on as well that impact them, whether that's being exposed to endocrine disrupting things like different scents that are really highly perfumed, um, especially really highly perfumed laundry detergents, highly perfumed cleaners, things like, I'm not going to name the companies, but the spray that people spray so that they think their house smells good, but it's actually just like a fake smell that is really overbearing, and it actually is disruptive to the endocrine system. So when people are wanting to truly regulate their hormones and they're really in it for the win, there are a lot of things that you need to shift, like eliminating those things that are highly scented with scents that are like man-made. So if you're looking for scent, you'd want to go for something that's a really good quality essential oil. It doesn't have a whole bunch of other stuff added to it, just the oils themselves, if that's something that you feel like you need in your life. If you're washing laundry, you want to look for different products that are going to help with that as well. So why I say that is because if these things are endocrine disruptors, which there is a lot of backed proof and there's a lot of scientific research on these things being endocrine disruptors, you can argue with me if you want, and I can send you information, but I'm sure you're smart enough to go Google that up, what different scents can do as endocrine disruptors. So if we know that, then it's not just about looking at it as you've got menopause or you're going through andropause. We got to look at why your body is not seeing that as a natural change of course. Why has it gone into havoc? Shouldn't have to go into havoc. So there are, some of those things that are physically affecting your body that can be shifted. And we're going to talk about, well, they also fall into lifestyle, right? So part of that is that there are things in your lifestyle, like the scented candles that are overly scented with non well, they're also made with different waxes. Like there's a whole bunch that I should just think about, like 100 things that I've seen in people's homes off the bat that actually are endocrine disruptors. And a lot of people don't realize that they're being surrounded by endocrine disruptors all the time. They're in your shampoos, they're in your soaps, they're in your laundry detergents, especially. They are in so many cleaning products. And yeah, I think this is going to be really annoying and boring for you guys to hear. But if you really want to resolve this, you really need to look at all the factors. So those are some major ones that are affecting the hormones. Um, you might also have chronic health conditions that would affect your libido as well. So chronic health conditions could be anything from having pain in your body, say fibromyalgia is a really common one, which oftentimes can be alleviated, or the pain of it can be alleviated with different methods. If that's something that you do suffer from and you'd like to have some solutions, just feel free to connect with me. You can either book a time or send me an email through my website, milicajelenic.com, and we can look at some solutions. So some of those common reasons we've got, like menopause, andropause, why is it so hard for people these days? What can we do to regulate the hormones? First, we got to find out what's messing with them and eliminate those things. And there's so many more that are controversial that, you know, people would probably love to argue with me about. Here I am on internet, but I don't like to sit on internet because it also there's a lot of research that's been done that it does affect pineal glands, and pineal gland is part of your endocrine system. You don't need to have that being hit all the time with certain frequencies. It's very disruptive to the body. So looking at diet and what you can change for diet and movement, and if we can do more movement that's related to calming the body, your libido can actually come back. Why? Because it'll start to regulate your hormones. You won't be in fight or flight. What sometimes people do when they are in chronic fight or flight, and they're almost like when you're always in fight or flight, you might find that you're distracted. You might actually have labeled yourself as like ADHD. And many times people with ADHD have hypersexuality as one of their ways to be able to regulate themselves. So if you're looking at different reasons why you might have a diminished desire, for one, your body might be so far overdrive that it's exhausted. And also there may be other ways that your body is starting to go, you know what, this method that we were trying to do with hypersexualities isn't so great. Now there's like STDs, and now your body's exhausted again from that. It's a vicious cycle. So you want to be able to learn to regulate your body without involving hypersexuality, without involving medications that are going to affect your liver in the long run. It's going to affect other parts of your system in the long run. It's all connected, guys. So okay, I'm going to head to my first commercial break, or otherwise I'm just going to keep on ranting about endocrine disruptors. So it's one of the reasons why we have diminished desire is there's a lot of endocrine disruptors going on. So you're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight we are talking about diminished libido. Why does it happen? You know, it's devastating for most. And for some, People, they just say, well, that's just naturally occurring. It's just because I'm getting old. It doesn't matter. No big deal. I'll deal with it. Um, it they really don't care, but they don't also realize that it's not just about the sex part, it's about what's underlying that. So what's going on in the endocrine system? What's causing the endocrine system to be off and disrupted? What are the sources? What are the foods you're eating that might be filled with hormones? There are a lot of foods that are absolutely chock full of hormones. So if you're not eating like grass-fed beef, and if you're eating hormone basically hormone fed meat, you're gonna have that's gonna impact your body. It's going to. In the same way that, water sources from like tap water from like city water is never truly filtered enough to get all of the hormones from different things like medications, like all the birth control pills that the fish are having, and then you're having the fish but you're drinking the water that's never truly got all of those tiny little microscopic uh, hormones that you're peeing out. It doesn't all come out, just letting you know. Get a good filter. If you need to know what some really, really good ones are out there that are relatively reasonably affordable, I can connect you with that. I'm not affiliated with any sales on those. But a lot of times people don't know where to go and what to get. And sometimes they're investing in $3,000 or $4,000 units they don't actually need. They don't make that much significant difference. So yeah, if you're in need of something like that, again, connect with me. So we're talking about hormones, we're talking about andropause, menopause, we were talking about lifestyle and the real simple things that you'd be surprised that affect your hormones. And when they affect your hormones, they can absolutely affect your level of desire, that whether it's the foods you're eating or whether it's the different things like the cleaning products you're using. So also, if you have really, really bad sleep, the chances are when you're tired, you don't want to have sex. Let's look at it fundamentally. The basics are sex is the desire on some level to procreate. We're just going to go with the basics. Yes, there's pleasure-oriented sex, absolutely, but there's a real fundamental drive as animals, as we are animals, to have sex for procreation. And in times when your body is exhausted or ill, it's not going to have the same level of sex drive as when you are happy and healthy and calm and well rested. Exhaustion is not the first thought when you're exhausted, is not necessarily let's go create more life on this earth. But when you're feeling good and energized, your thought might be, even if you're like in andropause or menopause, might unconsciously be, yeah, now it's safe. Go procreate. It's safe. We're good. We're happy. We're healthy. Although, as I talked about a couple weeks ago, that absolutely masturbation can be a form to heal your body. If you're a solo player, I talked about that on the solo pleasuring episode there a week or two ago. Absolutely possible. However, that's a little different than being able to be aroused with somebody else, because that takes like a little bit of a different level of presence as well as energy and desire to be able to perform and everything else that's involved. So when you're tired, when you're ill, if you've had chronic illness, the chances are you're not super horny, because your body is thinking about surviving through the stress of the illness more so than the desire to procreate. That's the more common reaction. There are absolutely, people who are not in the same category, but they also are probably more hardwired in a different way. We'll put it that way. So what else we need to know and look at are So we got physical factors, we got lifestyle contributors, relationship dynamics too. Like if you have had, say, issues that are long-term ongoing issues in your partnership, and maybe you don't feel attracted to your partner because maybe they've been a chronic liar, maybe they're uh, an addict, maybe an alcoholic or a drug addict, and they're just lying to you all the time about their habit. It becomes very unattractive to be with somebody that does that. So how do I know, did you ask? Oh, because for quite a long time, in my early 30s to my late 30s, I was with somebody who I was absolutely unattracted to because they were an addict and lied chronically about it. So that was very frustrating. And so those unresolved issues, unresolved conflicts, and the lack of communication and the lying and the narcissism, that's all really hard to have a relationship with somebody like that. Also, having mismatched libidos can be an issue as well. So if somebody's horny, say in the morning, you're horny at night, and you never seem to find the right time for each other, nothing seems to fit or work, or your hormones are right out of sync with each other, where maybe one partner is horny for the first 2 weeks of the month and the other partner is only horny for the last 2 weeks of the month, but doesn't seem to ever jive. When the relationship is going through phases and stages like that, there are ways to work through that. There are some negotiations you can use, but there are also ways to be able to connect with your partner so that you can get things back on sync. And we might be able to connect with some of that today as well. So we will see how far we get in this conversation. So if you have these really long-term issues that have not been resolved, or ongoing issues that keep reoccurring, if there are things that you think you've resolved in your relationship, then it just keeps coming back and hitting you in the head, and you're finally going, I need to at that point you just might not be attracted to your partner. So at that point you might feel like, oh, I just need to get away from sex because it's got to be the sex I don't want. But it's actually a lack of trust in your partner. So when there's that lack of trust going on, the desire for sex will be lower and lower and lower. And so if there is a lack of trust, there needs to be a discussion about what created that. And if there are things that are like absolutely change the relationship and the dynamics and the trust that are never going to be resolvable, and that, in all fairness, you need to acknowledge that with your partner and say, you know what, this is something that I found unforgivable and I can never forgive you for it. So now we can either live in this limbo land of never having sex, or we can let each other go, because I know and trust that I know about me that I can never forgive this. So if you can never forgive something, be honest with yourself about that. Be honest with your partner about it. And even if your partner tries to convince you that, oh, no, 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 it's okay, you will forgive me. If you know you and you know that you can't, just really stick to your guns on that, because otherwise you're doing each other a disservice. And it'll be one of those things where you're like, I spent the last 14 years of my life and I wasted all this time, and I could have been with somebody and I didn't, and then all the regret. So yeah, we want to make sure that you don't fall into all of that regret. And we want to look at how can we start to just even start to change some things. So one of the things that we want to be able to do is have some targets. A lot of people like to call them goals. So have some targets that are achievable, because what you're going to need to do is see results, right? So and achievable in a way that's not like, I'm going to do 65 days of 1 hour workouts. That is not achievable if you have not done a 1 hour workout ever in your life. if that's the kind of situation you're in, you've never done a workout in your life, but you need to create an actionable target, then the actionable target is once a week, I will do 10 minutes of walking or jogging or swimming. 10 minutes once a week is very, very achievable. And then you could go on to do, then after you do that for a month, you go, oh, you know what? I did that for a month. Yay me. I did 10 minutes every once a week. Like that is success. Mark it on the calendar, make it happen, especially for people who say they don't have time. I don't have enough time for that. 10 minutes once a week. See how you feel. So what I would say to do is like note how you feel before you do this 10-minute, walk or jog or swim or whatever you're doing. Note how you feel before, do the action for 10 minutes, and then wait about half an hour after you've done it and note how you feel after. Keep a log of it, because if you keep a log of it, when you look back, you'll probably start to realize that you've actually felt better every time you've done that. And knowing that is going to train your brain to desire to feel better. So it'll probably choose it more. So the next month, you might go for 2 10-minute workouts a week. So by workout, I'm not saying like lifting weights. I'm saying you just might want to walk or jog. We're not trying to increase cortisol by making things like super heavy workouts. We're just trying to get you to feel good in your body. And these actionable goals, targets that are very simple, that you can actually note how you feel before and how you feel after, and then you've tracked that, is going to help you feel like staying on track. And if you do need to be accountable, if you do need somebody to work with you on creating a plan like this, creating some targets, then absolutely connect with me, because when you do get, your body back on track, your libido will also start to get back on track. So we're also going to look at things like nutrition, like what can you do to get your nutrition back on track? So we'll talk about that when we come back from this next commercial break. Stay tuned and turned on.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seeker. You're seeping pleasure. Now that's fun. Seeker. In 10 years, I have not actually said pleasure seeker. So whatever that is, enjoy being a pleasure seeker and a pleasure seeker. tonight, with our conversation about libido and bringing back the desire and finding ways in order to feel like you can maintain this, reclaiming desire and setting goals for restoring your libido. I know that some of this conversation in the last two segments might have kind of thrown you for a loop, but when I'm talking about things like, looking at the different products you're using, whether it's your cleaning products and being able to start with going through your house and looking at what cleaning products are scented, which ones are natural, so not necessarily just natural, because even arsenic is natural. That doesn't mean that it's safe in large quantities. So no. And there are lots of other things that are natural that are also not safe. So I would say safe products that you can use, that you want to eliminate the sulfides out of your food. You want to eliminate like sodium lauryl sulfate out of your cleaning detergent, and sodium lauryl sulfate. All of those are carcinogenic, and they also tend to be in a lot of stuff that has scent in it. So avoiding things that are, going to kill you is great. I was just having a conversation with somebody today too about the weird and strange ingredients that are in foods that absolutely affect our bodies nutritionally and will diminish our health. And one of the weird ones to look for is the short form is TSP, trisodium phosphate. Trisodium phosphate is found in things like Cheerios, and it's a paint thinner. So I don't know about you, but I'm not a fan of like putting weird stuff like that in myself. So take into consideration that there are a lot of things that you may have unconsciously been putting into your body. And you might want to try, having a conversation with me to find out what's going on. Do you have maybe heavy metals that you need to get out of your body? Do you have parasites that are affecting you as well? That happens a lot, and those can absolutely diminish libido. Not an often talked about subject, how, parasites can diminish your libido, because they can make you incredibly tired. And then again, when you're tired, are you horny? Not so much. So that's when I look at somebody for their health, I look at a lot of different components. And so I'm looking at things like heavy metal levels, hormone levels, even vitamin levels, minerals, all kinds of different impacts from different toxins. And then we start to resolve things. So if you are thinking like, I don't know, do I have all of this stuff? The chances are you probably have some of something and some of a lot of it. And one of the first things to work with, and I know this is another controversial thing that people love to get mad about, is to find out if you are the host of many parasites. So what you want to make sure is that the parasites don't have a better life than you. We all have some level of parasitic action going on in our bodies. There are some that are there that are just constantly like eating away things. Like we have E. coli, which is a protozoa. And for some people that falls under the parasite category. For some it falls under the gram-negative bacteria category. Either way, it's not a bacteria that should be anywhere in your body except for your colon, pretty much. So you want to make sure that you are having the better life over the parasites. I know that's a funny saying, but we say it all the time to people. It's like, you're probably going to have parasites, but as long as you have a better life than them, good. So one of the things you can do is to make sure that you are eating certain foods that help eliminate them. There are lots of foods that will. One of the simplest ones, just offhand, is pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin in general is great for cleaning up parasites. So it's not pumpkin pie, guys. It's like pumpkin, because you want to throw some sugar in there. That's going to make parasites live. And not all sugars are toxic sugars either. So there are sugars that our body needs. So you want to look at, what are you eating? How's that impacting you? Is it giving more life to your parasites? Like, is it giving them a happy environment to thrive in? If they're thriving and you're not thriving, that's unfortunate. You want to switch that up. And they also have the capacity to hold 6 times their body weight in toxins. Toxins, as well as fungus and bacteria, they are like incredible at holding like massive amounts of waste. So one of the things to do is get a really good parasite cleanse so that you're getting your body to be the happiest it can be. So now that we got your guts cleaned, we got your, your body is getting cleaned up. Why I say this is because you want to be eating and taking in foods that are optimizing your energy. So if you are eating things that are optimizing your energy and you're not feeling it, there's probably something else going on. Maybe you've got heavy doses of candida. Usually where there's candida, there's parasites. So they usually are in tandem. They love to party together. So you want to be able to, do a few things to be able to manage those. And again, if you need more details and you would like some help with that, definitely connect with me. I know a lot of people listen to me and they're like, oh yeah, she's like this sex lady. Yes, and thank you. And I'm also the holistic health practitioner. Can't emphasize that enough. So that is something that a lot of times it comes back to health to look at what's going on with the sexual situation in your life. And sometimes it's a relationship situation going on. So we look at all of it. It's a holistic approach. So nutrition, another one of the things is there are like main things that your diet needs. And diet's such a crap word. So there's main things you nutritionally require in your body. You need fatty acids, you need proteins, you need certain minerals and vitamins. You need good clean water. And so, you want enough different foods that are giving you all your requirements. So for example, you want to have on average, the average person needs about 100 grams of protein a day. So you can look up different lists about like how much protein is in what. And then when your body is satiated with protein, it's usually not hungry for many, many hours. It takes a lot longer for your body to break down proteins, also helps regulate blood sugars. So if it's regulating that, it's helping your pancreas. Your pancreas is part of part of your endocrine system, as well as some organs have multiple systems that they're involved in. Pancreas happens to be one of them, but the pancreas is part of the endocrine system. So you want to have that regulated, especially with sugars. You want that regulated as well, because I don't know if you know this, but a lot of times pre-diabetics have pretty irregular, we'll call it irregular, not non-existent, but pretty irregular libido. So you want to get that managed as well. So sometimes I'm just like on a roll and I'm like, where am I? So nutrition, talking about those main nutritions, fatty acids from things like, eggs have fatty acids. We've got flaxseed oil, although flaxseed, people are getting really controversial about seeds and seed oils these days. Anytime you're cooking an oil, it'll change it from what it is to a trans fat. So they're a lot harder for the body to navigate. You want to keep it in the cis fats. So you want to make sure that they're not changing their configuration through heat. Not a lot of oil should be heated. So if you are cooking a lot with oil, that could be contributing to some issues, especially in the liver. And that'll, impact certain things like enzymes, which will, it's just like a cycle. So like, let's get back on track. So nutrition, I could talk about nutrition in and of itself for a very long time. So I think it's more important to know what your metabolics are, what your body requires, what to add, what to eliminate. Everybody's different. It's not like a one solution for all, but you can get really specific. You can even figure out, are you one of those kinds of people who needs to have high protein days one day and high carb days the other day? Sometimes that's the kind of body I have. I think I'm a mesomorph. Anyway, I don't actually name them that way. I just look at it as, what is your body lacking? What does it require? Are you more parasympathetic dominant or sympathetic dominant? Is your body regulated? Because if it is, then you're probably eating the correct foods. If it isn't, then you need to look at how to manage that and what needs to be added. And that's usually a pretty quick solution to figure that out. So we're going to head to our next commercial break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up this wild and wonderful show that seems to have lasted 3.5 minutes. I will see you on the other side of this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight we are figuring out how to get that libido going and setting some really simple targets to be able to do that, because we need targets in our lives, and not necessarily always that we have to be hard set on making them happen, but we do need wins. And so if you have a target and then you achieve that target, you feel like you get a win, then your endorphins kick in. That's one of your happy hormones, your dose hormones. So you've got your dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, and you need your dose of daily happy hormones. So having a target that you can actually achieve is going to help with those endorphins. So one of the things we want to do to start getting those endorphins going is you got to know, first of all, what it is that you desire so that you can work towards having that. So for example, if one of your things is that you want to feel or have more connected sex, you got to connect with you first. And if you're like, my partner doesn't turn me on, well, the question to me then is, do you turn you on? And if you don't know how to, then you need to figure out what works for you. And I've done a lot of shows on self-pleasuring, different ideas. Go back and listen to all my 400 or 500 episodes on different options of things that you might like. So knowing what you actually desire is helpful. And if you have absolutely no clue, I encourage you to go to my website, milicajelenic.com, and download the do's, don'ts, maybes list. It's a little vanilla, but it's a great start. On it, there is there's the do's, don'ts, maybes column, but on the other second page is a whole bunch of list of ideas, locations, and different things you can add. So it's kind of like a clue game for sex. It's like, Mustard did it in the library with the revolver. Well, in this do's, don'ts, maybes list, it could be like doing it in the kitchen on the table with a vibrator. Get me? All right. It's like sexy clue. I actually had a show about like how you could turn all your regular board games into like sexy board games. I don't know when I did that. It was way back when. I'm pretty sure I did that. If I didn't, then I dreamt that I did it and I should do it. I'll have to go back and find out. So I really think I did. But man, it's been a lot of years. Okay. So know what you actually like. That's really helpful. Being able to communicate that with your partner, even more helpful. being able to get that whatever it is that you are interested in, if your partner's not interested in it, that's okay, right? It's not about forcing somebody into something, but have the conversation, open up the conversation. And so if what you're desiring is an absolute no never to your partner, that they will never try that, it's like a game, like a total deal breaker, then you need to consider that that partnership might not work for you sexually. Maybe you're fine with as friends, but if you need somebody to be able to say, give you anal sex weekly, and they're like, I will never give you anal sex, then it's probably not going to work for you. Then you have to decide, is that a deal breaker? And it might be. So consider that if it is a deal breaker, you need to be able to be resolved enough that you have your own back to be able to walk away if you need to. But if you are reconnecting with yourself and you really have no idea what you like, start with the simplest things. Start with your senses. Start with what kind of touch do you like? It's one of the most fun ones to start with, especially because there is a whole fun method where you can discover what you like through the touch blueprint. And there are courses on the touch blueprint that you can go figure that out and figure out what you enjoy. So that can bring and rekindle passion, absolutely, because that play in itself can bring back a lot of just experiential fun. It's like a smorgasbord of delightful touch. So have fun with discovering that. So also important is to not judge your partner on what they like. You might not desire to have it, but one thing that can shut down conversation and openness real fast is to yuck somebody's yum. And if they're like, oh, I really want to try this, and you're like, oh, that's disgusting, the chances are they'll never talk to you about anything they want again. And the chances are pretty high that they're going to go find somebody else that will do that with them, especially if you have made them, especially if you brought up an energy that's made them feel like they're disgusting. And so they're not going to feel probably attractive to you. And it's probably broken their trust to be able to talk with you about that. So get in the headspace before having these conversations that if you're both consenting adults, you're over the age of 18, you're both consenting, you're both communicating, and you're both curious. Everything else is because of consent. You need to really be clear on what you're okay with. You might not want to try it. You might be like, no, I don't really want to try asphyxiation today. I kind of am afraid that I might die. Then you can just say, you don't have to shame your partner being like, what kind of psychopath are you? Just be like, okay, that's not really my thing. I don't know if it ever will be my thing, but I'm really grateful you shared that with me. If that's something you need, then I might not be your person, right? So that's a little different than going, you're sick and disgusting. If you're an adult talking to another adult and you are discussing and communicating desires and you're clear about what they are and that you follow through and you have your safe words and all of that in place, there you go. It's all good. So we want to do things that have positive reinforcement so that your partner feels like coming back for more and more and more. So remember to give them lots of great feedback. Like, that feels really good. Oh, I love it when you do A, B, C, and D. You know, the way you stroke my clit? I freaking love that. Can you do more of that? Fantastic. Awesome. People love feedback that is positive feedback, that's encouraging feedback. If there's something they're doing that you're not really enjoying, you can actually say, what I really like is this, this, and this. And then if they don't know how to do that, show them, show and tell. It's fantastic. Yes, grown-ups, you can have show and tell fun times. So I got like 1 minute left to share with you guys about how to like restore intimacy. I might have to do another entire episode just on that, but let's keep it really, really simple. Is you want to start with touch that's non-sexual and consensual, right? So is it okay if I touch your hand, especially when you're trying to rebuild trust and rebuild intimacy? Is it okay if I touch your hand? Is it okay if I hold your bum? Is it okay if I stroke your leg? We're not going for, can I stroke your penis right off the bat. No, we're aiming for other things first. We're aiming to reconnect and just feel in touch and like notice the textures of your partner's flesh or their hair or have fun with it.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach Milica Jelenic. We'll return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.